and Craig went with the hat.
Is the hat bad? What do you think?
I like it. It's a new look for you. I haven't seen the hat look with you, so I like it. I'm pro.
Hey man, we're supposed to be ourselves. It's like bringing ourselves. But no, I've been dying since yesterday because Matt threw out.
Did you have COVID?
Well, we threw that out already. I still actually no. I've Claire, who's Matt's wife, and I talked, and she's like, "There's someone honking outside." So hopefully
we can't hear it. We can't hear it. You're good.
Hang on.
That's going to happen a lot.
Welcome to GTM Unfiltered, hosted by GTM veterans Judd Borko, Craig Rosenberg, and Matt Amundsen. We make talking business fun and sometimes funny. That's because we're always unscripted, unfiltered, and unlike anything else out there. Get ready.
I got to say, though, he looks like he's going to go play golf. And knowing Craig, I don't ever think he would.
Yeah, he and I've never broached the golf topic, largely because I'm not a golfer. So I don't know. He's he had a very successful exit, so he is a country club member. But so maybe he's taking it up, or maybe it was just on the back burner. I don't know.
You had me at successful exit.
That's why I love telling people I've been a part of many exits, and they're like, "Any of them successful?" I'm like, I've been a part of many exits.
Many exits. We'll leave it there.
Yeah.
I do, when he gets back, there's a good question, though, because it seems like everybody in our world is all about the exit.
Yeah.
Right. And if you go to San Fran, everybody is like, "Oh, I'll take equity over cash." And I'm like, but it's a mentality that I'm always curious about. I'm like, come on, Craig.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, the good thing is like here they'll pay you well and give you equity. So,
yeah. Well, look, dude, you're in with a good. Here, hold on. Let me do this. All right. Now we're back.
All right.
So much like my grandma right now.
He keeps switching glasses too.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
I bet you he doesn't realize that he just put on a different pair.
Hila, who's our CMO, she was like, we were talking about my glasses today. She goes, "I'm pretty sure I haven't seen Craig wear the same pair of glasses more than once." Like, and it's probably pretty true. So
I like the Tiffany colored ones as my faves.
Oh, yeah. Those are the ones that actually he'll pull out like more than once.
Were these ones the ones that I had on?
That's what I had on, but those ones make me think grandma.
Yeah. All right. So by the way, I've been dying since Matt brought up the email. Not yesterday, in our previous recording, Matt had sort of brought up this idea that, like, do I need a industrial strength email weapon of mass destruction when email's not yielding the same results as it did before? So I want to dive in on that. But so we did a survey of like marketing programs and asked people, what are you starting, continuing, and stopping? So I want to get Matt's impression. I'm going to throw these out, Judd. You ready?
Go for it, man. We're jumping right in. That's how we do.
Okay, here you're going to answer this, Matt, in terms of advice you would give to the market.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yes.
Content syndication, just general, not account-based, targeted.
I would divest.
Okay, you added a new category. That's perfect, though. That's a good one. But you wouldn't give it up. You would just wait. Divest means you're out.
I would. Yes, I would come out of it right now.
All right, my buddy John Steiner at Tech Target will probably be a guest soon to come and refute you. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, at Tech Target, I would triple down. No, I'm just.
Well, no, but Tech Target in the verticals that they're really good at, they do. There are.
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that.
And here's the thing, though, and I'm going to give a caveat, because whenever people bring up like this or that, normally there's not enough information for you to really say, because if you're running an inbound, that might be a great play for you, right? I mean, if you're an outbound machine,
yeah, and it also it depends upon the maturity of the market that you're in. It depends upon the awareness of your brand. It also depends upon what metric you're actually trying to alter, right? So if
Influence,
you're just
yeah.
trying to, like, if you're on the hook for getting a lot of leads, it's a great way to ensure that like some portion of your lead quota is met. But I think in terms of is it a good like source of sales ready leads? No, definitely not.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, that was the number one program that's stopped, and it was 2x any of the other stops.
Yeah.
Second, in the stops was social other paid. So not LinkedIn.
Yep.
Do you do paid social? Well, what would you say on paid social? What's your?
Well, I mean, we can open a can of worms on LinkedIn paid social.
Oh
That is-
yeah, no, hold that one. That I know there's a can of worms there.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is it's definitely something that we'll continue to invest in. We can go 2 or 3 clicks deeper on that. I think the other social channels are outside of like Meta, I think very challenging. I think Meta in general can be great for a brand, depending upon who your the personas that you're targeting and the ICP that you have, just because it does allow you to get very specific. And the thing about LinkedIn is like it lets you get really, really targeted, but it does fall apart a little bit, and we can talk about that.
Okay. Oh, that next. All right. So that's the second one. Third one is ready. Judd and Matt have to podcasts. So we had, but this one evened out because there was a bunch of podcast starts too. And
Yeah.
most people are continuing, but there were some folks that were stopping it. I can see why someone would stop it because there's an execution thing. Like, you know, like the Ringmaster guys, they're so pro. Like if you would want to do it with someone like Ringmaster, right? Who could go and make sure,
Right.
yeah. But like if you just throw you podcasts and a Casey from Ringmaster says all the time, it's not if you build it, they will come. There's no not even close. But anyway, what are your thoughts on podcasts, Matt and Judd?
I got some thoughts, but
As a consumer of them, I think that they are great. But I will say in general, like I don't consume all that much B2B podcasts. I consume a lot of sports and pop culture because that's what I find to be entertaining. Every now and then I'll click into very specific business related podcasts if they have a good guest or if the host of that podcast is somebody that I admire, I have a ton of respect for. But generally speaking, my podcast consumption is about 95% not business related and probably 5% business related. I think in general, execution that I've seen from brands that do podcasts is rather terrible because it becomes very, very self-serving. It is like sort of a good way to get some of your customers onto a podcast and they feel good about it. But I think in terms of like just the quality, I listen to these things or I just see them and they're like over an hour long. I'm like, I'm out. There's no way I'm dedicating an hour of my life to this.
and I'm gonna double click on it. I normally do not like podcasts. I find them to be normally boring and repetitive. They bring on the same people, have the same conversation, and you tune in because you have the respect for the people that you want to hear from.
Sure.
The ones that I tend to be okay with or listen, and the ones that I find work even for a brand are the ones that are engaging and interesting. So, you know, the edutainment kind of like flow that, you know, we're talking about, right? It's like, I want to be a part of a conversation. I don't just want to listen to somebody berate somebody with questions, or I want to laugh every so often, be entertained, but also be like, oh, that was good. Right.
Yeah.
So I think as a channel, yes, I like it. I think people are looking for an entertainment, educational component, but I don't think many people do it well. And I don't think many people do it right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's exactly right. But people do have, people do have their preferences, but yeah, like it's hard because when we look at channels, it's like, you know, there's like, I used to sell content syndication and I knew full well by talking to the client, whether they would make it work or not.
Sure.
Yep.
You know, and, so those were the stops, just the top 3, because I want to go back to some, but let me give you the one marketing programs that are starting in H2. I think this is really interesting. I can't wait for your guys on this one. The number 1 start, okay, is direct mail.
Yeah.
Yep.
Think about that for a sec. That's pretty that's a pretty good endorsement for direct mail. Everyone's cutting budget. That one seems to have money attached to it, right? And the most interesting thing for me on direct mail is it rarely yields the one-to-one result. Like it makes everything else better, but it doesn't necessarily, like you don't send someone a squeegee ball or whatever those things are called and they go, oh my God, I'm going to go take a demo, right? Like the squeegee ball with the SDR call with the targeted advertising, that works. So think about that. That's crazy considering the CFO has her hands on everything now. Direct mail costs money and it makes other things work yet. And it's doing well. Everyone's keeping it and more people are starting it. So go.
Let me jump in on this one because I've been calling direct mail as working again for a long time now, probably for the last 6 months. What's old is new, as I like to say. Part of it, cost has come down dramatically, right? There's new technology that allows you to print one-offs. You could do, 1,000-piece run and have 15 different versions. And it's cost effective, which it was not for a very long time. So now with the cost down, making everything work better and people paying attention again, that's my number one start too. Matt?
I mean, I like it. And I have been successful using direct mail as a part of my marketing mix for a long time. I will say that previous to where I work currently, I was selling into the DevOps space and it wasn't even a consideration there just because like there was no way you were going to be able to direct mail these people. And quite honestly, it was a bottoms up approach and just like, it was very hard to justify the spend for it. So that didn't work. I would say what I'm starting to see as like a driver here at my own business around direct mail, and it's a little bit of a crawl, walk, run, is we just need to do a better job with our customers, especially customers that are doing great things for us, like advocating for us on G2, closing as new customers, and so setting up some automation around that is part of one of our quarterly initiatives. We have a technology for it. We're just not utilizing it yet. But I think as part of an account-based motion, which we have a perspective on having an account-based motion, but we don't have the infrastructure yet for it to go live. I think it's really hard to run successful ABM without a direct mail piece. I just do.
What do you think about direct mail in PLG?
It's a good question. I think the challenge with PLG, and you're starting to see a lot of conversation around like metrics of PLG on LinkedIn, which I think is fascinating because for a long time people were saying PLG is the new sort of GTM du jour. But there's not a lot of good thought leadership around how do I quantify what success looks like, how many people need to sign up in order to get a customer, et cetera, et cetera. What I would say is we're still in, not necessarily the dark ages of PLG, but we're in the early stages of PLG in terms of having an understanding around when a motion like that would be meaningful and useful. And there is a whole sector of what I believe MarTech is going to become over the course of the next 10 years. That is not, it doesn't have, it hasn't reached enough density in the market yet for people to understand when a motion like direct mail for PLG would work appropriately. And to me, that moment is either there's enough product usage that it would trigger that, there's enough users within a single organization that it would trigger that. Then the challenges around that is, well, you've got 10 users at Adobe who are utilizing your PLG product. Which one do you send it to? Who is really driving it? Is it a top-down initiative to bring in something like this, or is it a bottoms-up where there's a bunch of people who are like, hey, this technology rocks, and so one of those core people is actually an influencer? Certainly you can see if your product has the capability to add people, you can see the person who's adding the most people, and that would be the natural choice there. But there are considerations for how you would do PLG that I think are unexplored.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. So then SDRs though, have you seen, I've heard really good things about direct mail in helping SDRs connect rates.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's actually what we're talking about here too, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because like an ABM thing where we're throwing the multiple channels at them to get the connect is what, I mean, essentially nobody wants to admit that, but that's literally what we're doing. We're trying
I just think these things in a vacuum don't hold as much weight as when they're put together properly. I mean,
Totally.
you have direct mail, you have SDR. The SDR touch is based on a score, or however you've moved them through your funnel. And if you try to do one or the other alone, the effect is minimal. So, I mean, look, marketing, sales, go to market, it's all a cumulative approach anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, look, what product you sell, who your target audience is. I mean, all of these channels can work. It's understanding, will it work for what you need and the people, the set that you need. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you rewind, if you get in the DeLorean, gun it to 88 and rewind to when like Chris and Braden were starting Sendoso, the earliest inception of the idea of Sendoso was probably the brightest one that existed, which is like, hey, I'm going to send you a $5 Starbucks gift card because we're going to be in a meeting in an hour and I want to make sure that you're caffeinated for it. And the far-flung use cases that have been generated from direct mail, and even though that was digital direct mail, but direct mail have like, in a weird way, almost cratered that market under the weight of what people tried to do with it, which is people went and spent a fortune to try to make it such an anchor piece of their go-to-market. And the reality is it just works great to get for an SDR to get a meeting. It works great for an account executive to make sure that the attendee actually comes to the meeting. It works great as a little thank you note after the fact or as somebody becomes a customer. But I think people conflated the success of that with this is actually something that could drive pipeline as a standalone channel.
Yeah.
And I think Craig said everything that Judd and I have just spent the last 5 minutes pontificating on in his first statement, which is it's not a one-to-one, it makes everything better.
Yeah. I got a couple for you and then we'll go. So one is, so Gainsight, they used to early days, they would find out when the executive team was having their meeting, whether it was a Monday meeting, a forecast meeting, and they'd send donuts. Small thing,
Totally.
make a difference. The best one though I ever heard, I was telling a client that story. I think this was a guy named Mike Smith, who's like
Sounds like a made-up name.
That was a fake name. They have 50 years
Gonzo.
at CRO, and he used to have the bacon play. And so what they do is literally the sales reps had a button in Salesforce, and if they hadn't heard from a buyer, so we're talking like down the line, waiting to get the deal done end of quarter, they would press a button and they'd send them a pound of bacon. And he's like, it would work like a charm. These guys wouldn't get back to you, then send the bacon. I will follow that. So listen, I had him return a call. He's a buddy of mine. He was trying to get to me, similar idea. And I wasn't returning his calls. I meant to, by the way. I took a picture of how I had it written down and sent it to him, but he knew that I liked Good Company in Houston and he sent me a brisket. Okay. And I called him 20 minutes later.
Someone sends me a brisket, I'm calling him too. Everybody, just send me a brisket.
So we're all going to get briskets.
Although I will say we now need to make shirts just called the Power of Bacon.
Yeah. Well, we can do that. I'm pretty sure there is one.
Yeah. I mean,
we just got to go get them.
I think I've seen Matt wear it. By the way, I've been broiling bacon lately. It's amazing. Instead of frying
yeah. It's incredible. Both crunchy and chewy. It's
all at the same time.
Crunchy, chewy, and you don't lose half the bacon. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's amazing. Okay. All right. So that was incredible.
Yeah, I just want to add on one bit of color. Craig and I, you have known each other for a long time. For a long time, my LinkedIn headline was "We'll take meetings for cupcakes," and people used to send me cupcakes all the time. Now, back then I was I didn't look the same as I do now, and I would tell people, "Oh yeah, I'm giving them to my my staff." I was giving them all myself. So, but like, I think it's those little touches that go a long way. And if you can sort of pick up the signal of what someone likes or if you can find, based upon the persona that you serve, something common that you can send out to people and it scales, there's something magic about that.
Yeah.
There's one other side though. Like we keep talking about like the mass way of doing things. I still think that hyper personalized touch it wins every time. And I've watched it's experience, not tchotchke, right? If I know you play guitars and you're a big potential customer and suddenly a custom guitar with your name on it shows up at your house, I guarantee you're getting on a call.
Sure.
Now, I'm not saying I'm going to send you a guitar, but
hey, wait a minute. You opened that Pandora's box.
I actually know one of the companies, they were trying to create a partnership. They knew the CEO played. They sent him a custom guitar. He called them immediately, and they did close the deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's an investment. I love it. By the way, I'm going to change mine to I work for Fender Stratocasters, and then like, people just send them to me. Fun fact, I did play the guitar in middle school because I did, I was old. It was like hair rock or whatever you want to call it was like totally in. And I used to love Judas Priest Breaking the Law. You know, that guitar, that KK Downing, that guitar. I used to play that all the time. And that's the only thing I could play. But I looked really cool. All right. So
we need pictures.
Hold on. So there's a bunch of other starts, but I want to give you guys a choice so we don't, because I think these are really interesting. Okay. So direct mail was one in like programs people are starting. Second, really close behind was ABM, content syndication. So targeted. Okay. Sure. But hold on. I'm going to give you the rest and then you can choose whichever one you want to talk about. Third was customer advisory board.
Okay.
Programs. Intriguing. Fourth, this one I cannot wait to hear, but I gave you guys a choice yet. I'm leading the witness. Brand campaigns. Now,
those are starts, right?
Starts. So number one was direct mail. Number two, content syndication, ABM. Number three, customer advisory board. And four is brand campaigns. There's others, but those are the top four. Okay, so we talked about direct mail. Any of those other three you want to comment on?
I do, but go. Yeah, brand. I'm going right to brand because
secret, but I can't tell you what it is. All right, good.
Let me say one thing. Yeah. If that's a start, you already screwed up. Because who the hell doesn't do brand campaigns and who doesn't think of that as a pillar component of what you're doing? Like we all know brand drives deals, brand drives demand, as we like to say. So if that's the new thing you're doing, you better be early on and not have brand equity. And you're thinking, okay, it's time to promote the brand. But if you're later on, you haven't been doing it or you turned it off, I see that as a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with you, but I think the reality of the environment has been is almost everybody has underinvested in brand, especially during the sort of the bountiful times of the pandemic. It was just about capture as much demand as you possibly can. And I some people will hear brand campaigns and they'll think, oh, it's kind of fluffy. The reality is most of us are not creating our own market. We talk about all the time, like, oh, demand gen this, demand gen that. Like, if your whole motion is just demand gen or just demand capture, you are always going to be beholden to whatever market exists. And you're going to get into these conversations around how do we steal customers away from our competitors? How do we get them at their renewal and whatnot? And that stuff's important, right? You want to cut down your competitors as much as you can. But if you're not out there creating a bigger market and establishing yourself as the primary player in it, then you're going to be stuck by whatever serviceable addressable market exists today. And so I think it is beholden on all of us to go out and try to create more of a market. And now I know some monolithic brands that are out now trying to create new markets for themselves. And they don't even have like a good necessarily motion for it because their products are so tied towards a specific buyer. But like, without stating too much of stuff that I shouldn't be talking about in confidence with some of the folks that I know, like people who have largely sold into CIOs and CTOs now desperately want to move into the go-to-market space, desperately. And brands that we think of as primarily being purchased by CIOs and CTOs now want to have a seat with marketing leaders, sales leaders. They want to have an understanding of what are the things that they're doing and how can their product support
it. So hold on. Let me ask a question then around this one. So obviously brand, I think we all agree brand is important and being the leader in your category is important. So let's talk category.
Yeah.
How do we feel about it? Is it overdone? I'm kind of getting to a point that everybody seems to think that their product can be a new category. Everybody wants to create a category. We have tales of, category king winning and so on. But after those tales, I don't have many that hold up. And I've seen numerous times where a lot of these category creators and kings at the time don't win.
Sure.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, by the way, on our list of guests will be the category design advisors. We'll have them on. I'm doing a workshop with them next week in New York.
Yeah. And I have done a workshop with them. And what I'll say is, yes, people don't do it well, but if you do it well, you generally do win. You generally do win. And I think that it's only normal to look at either your brand as like, oh, I don't know if this is a whole category or not, or I'm already playing in a category. How do I carve out a niche for myself? But it can be done. And I don't think we have the space on this podcast to talk through it. And we're going to have that team on. So at some point they'll talk through it. But man, when it is executed, it rocks, which is true for everything. Email marketing can be incredible if you're really good at it, but most people stink at it, right? And so I think the same is true for category design.
Yeah, Judd, I think you bring up the use case that is the problem, which is we all read Play Bigger, which is a great book, right? It made total sense. And like the examples in category king and category winners is like exciting. The issue though you brought up is like, I think Matt and I talked to Mike Damphouse about it in the Scale Venture Partners office, which was too many people think they need to make a new category.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the issue that you're bringing up. I used to see this all the time as an analyst, man. It was like, I was an analyst for 9 years and people would come and go, we think there's a new category and it's this. Okay. So I'm going to tell you 2 stories and then we'll move on. So one is, did I tell you guys a story? So one of the things I did was I brought the guys that founded Eloqua and Marketo together. Right. And I said, like, give me the oral history. We're doing this. I think I brought it up the other day, but like one part of that was the category design. And they had tried revenue performance management and it failed, right? Like I think Marketo had it on their website for 4 months, maybe Eloqua had it for 5. Okay. So that was, John Miller's like, look, go look at the Wayback Machine, man. Like you'll see that we tried it, we went hard at it and we pulled back and we called ourselves marketing automation. All of us in the space thought marketing automation was the wrong term, but that didn't matter because the buyers gravitated to it. Yeah. And Steve Woods, who was taking the call while on a walk in Toronto, goes, here's the thing is we were selling them something they didn't want. He's like, the buyers decide the category. And that's the biggest mistake everyone makes. Yeah. And that if the like Damphouse, so Matt and I brought up to Mike Damphouse, he runs Category Design Advisors and he works with Kevin Minnie, who was one of the writers of Play Bigger, right? We said, like, what do you do when there's already a category? He's like, you carve your niche out. If Gartner already created the category, it's a category. Yeah. Now try to figure out how to win there. Right. And that's what you're talking about, Judd, which is like, we can't all start creating new categories. Yeah. Right. And that's bad. Yep. What's now, if you can be the one to invent CRM, you're going to, it's good. Okay. Then you brought the second issue is the category king doesn't always hold their throne. And I still think that's true, but they still got to where they are because they won that category. They built it and defined it. Like right now, it's the sales engagement platform market. That thing's up in the air again, right? And like, but it's still a category, and they, and those guys have all tried to create new category. Oh, it's custom.
Well, and I think that's one of the big problems, though, is they're all trying to create their own category within a category, which confuses the market. Yeah. But when they unify around it, whether it's marketing automation or anything they want, the unified approach creates the category. And I think that people keep thinking that there's this. My company is going to create the category. And it's like, category doesn't exist if there's only one of you.
That's right. It doesn't exist if there's one of you. Number two is if remember, for me, the category design thing is really simple, which is the buyer can articulate the category value prop without talking about the vendors. The vendors are second, right? So they go right now, you go to the market and say, you know what, we need a CRM. Now let's go look at it. You know what, we need marketing automation. Now let's go look at it. That's when that's when the flex happens, man. That's when like, okay, now you got to compete, sure, but like that's where the buyers are. That's where they go to. And I think that's really important. Anyway, we'll make that another. We'll make that.
So hold on.
Yeah,
I don't know about you, but I haven't seen Craig this animated in a while, so I'm gonna let you keep rolling. Man, you're excited. I love it.
Was I? That's that. I mean,
I think the COVID's going away.
Yeah, the COVID's where.
Hey man, yesterday I was excited to hear about this. Well, actually, you're right. When I found out about the Kavable, I definitely there was some confusion on my part, might have thrown me off my game. Okay, last thing though, I want to bring up. So LinkedIn. So there's two parts to LinkedIn. One is it is the place for free social right now for B2B. Is that true statement or no?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a microphone.
And you know what's wild is that it's gotten more crowded, more noisy, more busy, yet it's working as well as it's ever worked. So that's an interesting thing. And then the second is paid.
Yeah, I was gonna say versus paid.
So, but free, like, so, you know, Scott Alrome, you know, who I co-founded Tippet and Topo with, right? Like he's starting a new business. He's 1,000% all in on LinkedIn.
Yep.
One post a week. Maybe does he do more?
I think a day.
Okay, one a day. Yeah, I don't even know. But he's in our feed all the time.
Yes. He's at the top of my LinkedIn feed every time I log in.
He's a real journalist, by the way. Like it's some very little of it self-serving. Like he's writing about the Fed, he's writing about markets and like CEO stuff. It's amazing. And he's been able to build a following, an enviable following.
His content, I know it's we're talking about a couple of months back now, but his content when SVB was going down was some of the best I read anywhere. And I don't just mean on LinkedIn, I literally mean anywhere. It made it all make sense in a way that was so stick simple. And I was like, great. Now I know what's going on.
Yeah.
On the sidelines at the time, right? Since Craig and I were working together at scale then. But like, wow. I was like, okay, cool. Now I feel informed enough to have a conversation. I will say in general, the content that he puts out, in addition to it being very good, it gets a shitload of engagement too.
Totally. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, so he was following Sam Jacobs. Like he's like, because he's amazed at Sam. He's like, Sam is like 2 a day, I think, in even weekends. Probably. And he's like, the discipline is incredible. And I'm just, you know, because it's Scott, he's actually a pretty humble guy. He's like, oh no, Craig, you got to go look at Sam. And so, I mean, the rules of content apply, right? What we're talking about here is Scott writes great content. He really does. And then number two is there's a lot of bad content too.
Oh yes, there's plenty of terrible content.
I will say this, like right now, I think we're also at a point where content rules the world. It's all like there's nothing we're doing that content isn't driving in some way, shape, or form. Yet it's still undervalued in a lot of areas. The people who are creating it are undervalued. And I think we're going to see some type of market shift or change soon, because I'm talking to these amazing content creators and they don't get paid that well. They're doing a lot of work. They're creating a lot of content and a lot of them good content. You know, I mean, something's got to go. Something's going to break or shift soon. So I love that, like, great content's out there. And, you know, I guess you go to great, there's good content. So what? And so LinkedIn to me is that so what? I see a lot of content flinging around, but what does it lead to? And I think that's the big problem in LinkedIn. A lot of people know it's a great channel. They know they can do something there, but they have no idea how. And that's what's making things noisy and ugly.
Yeah. Let me give you some, let me give you an anecdote here. Because I think that this will help contextualize some of the way I feel about it and some of what you're talking about here, Judd, is We did at my company, we did a user summit, a sort of branded corporate event. It was virtual, right? And I was like, I'm scared to death of a virtual event. Like, who wants to go to those anymore? Like, whatever. But we're not in a place where we can do anything in real life just yet. We started our promotional plan for it about 8 weeks out. 6 weeks out, we started to really kick things into high gear from like we're inviting people, we're running ads, we're sending out emails, blah blah blah. And we're about 2 weeks out from the show, and Reg is way underperforming. We're in like the 300 people. Our goal was to get 1,000 people to this thing. In the 2 weeks leading up to the event, we went on a social, specifically LinkedIn. We echoed everything on Twitter, now X, which I would like to call Twitter now X. Anyways, and we just blocked out the sun on social, and we added 1,000 registrants in the 2 weeks leading up to the show without doing any more emails, without doing any more ads, just putting up nothing but, in my opinion, really compelling content about why you should go to the show, the people that are going to be at the show, the sessions that are going to be featured, et cetera. And we crushed our registration goals, crushed them. And it did. I mean, did it cost us money to produce the assets to be hosted on LinkedIn? Yes. Did it cost us very much money? No. And that's the place where our audience lives. And I know a lot of people say, well, LinkedIn is a place where sales and marketers live. Everybody lives there. If you're a professional, you live there, right? And I think that there are lessons to be learned around the way Gong went to market early on and what they were putting out on social. Yeah. And people keep saying, hey, I want this Gong effect. But as in every tactic we've talked about on today's show so far, if you don't do it right, it doesn't really matter. If you're not willing to put in the time and create really compelling content that's optimized specifically for that channel, this is not a place for definitive guides for lead scoring or things like that, like long form content. It's just, hey, can I put an idea out there that someone can just see and immediately understand?
Yeah. Boom. Okay. Paid LinkedIn. I know you threw it in there, but like, I was all excited to talk to you about that, Matt. And then you're like,
No, I mean, I paid LinkedIn works really well for us right now. Really, really well for us. But it's still expensive. And that's the tricky part, is it feels hard to say that, like, well, over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, I'm going to 10x my spend here or 20x my spend here. That just doesn't feel like it scales all that well. So number one, understand that the cost there is going to outweigh the cost of traditional search ads like Google, or if you mess around with Bing or whatever, or even other social channels like Meta. It's expensive, but because you can get very, very targeted. Now, I'll caveat how targeted you can get, because if you want to target a CMO, easy. CRO, easy. CTO, VP of sales, VP of marketing, director of demand gen. Like, you're talking about like direct hit names, easy. But that's not the way most people are titled anymore. People have titles all over the map. So it creates a lot of difficulty when you're like, hey, I want to serve an audience that's maybe mid-level management. They're involved in process that looks like this, but company to company, that could be somebody of a different role. And so sometimes what surfaces from campaigns like that, if it's bottom of funnel and you're trying to get somebody to take action, like request a demo or speak to sales, is you just turn up the wrong person. And there's nothing as heartbreaking as turning up the wrong person from a LinkedIn ad, because it's so expensive. So there's much more to be done there in terms of their targeting abilities. I don't think it's there yet, but if you're like, hey, I know who I'm going after, it's a CEO, or I know who I'm going after, it's the, director of HR. Great. Like, you're going to be fine. It's that mid-level management where you're like,
I would even go farther to say that I don't think this is LinkedIn something they can solve personally, unless they do some type of campaign to get the user more involved. Because what do we see on LinkedIn? People don't really put much on there. Maybe they update a title from time to time. The people who know how to use it, maybe it's like a resume, makes life a lot easier because they'll put what they do. But
Yeah.
the vast majority of people, it's I work here.
Yeah.
And that, with titles changing constantly, with the prioritization internally and how people are moving and shifting what they do to make the company work, man, it's only getting harder. So I really don't see a fix to that unless they go more external versus internal.
Yeah. Okay. So
Craig, you
Matt.
faded. Come to the forefront. You faded.
Yeah. Get in here, man.
While you guys were talking so much, I had to go relax, like lean back and relax.
Wait. So hold on. You got any more?
Oh,
Because
wait.
I got a couple side things I want to pull through.
Okay, you could do a side thing. Let me just ask Matt this though.
You got it.
So I give you $1,000 for online advertising. Divvy it up. Where do you put it?
Well,
Go to dinner.
yeah, I mean,
No. You can't do dinners. No channels. Like I'm talking like.
No. That was just let's go to dinner because $1,000 ain't get you anywhere.
Oh,
Hey,
okay. You're right. It was the
that's a
number. Yeah, you're
non-starter.
right. By the way, I'm not sure $1,000 gets you. Well, no, it'll get you dinner. Matt, it depends if. Yeah. Okay, go, Matt.
Okay, so let's take the $1,000 and let's make it $100,000. I think optimized, you'd want to have. I think if you were fully optimized, you'd want to have 2/3 of it in search ads and 1/3 of it in LinkedIn. The challenge with that is if you're operating in a category that's or just a product is in a nascent space, there's not enough search volume for you. So that's hard. And like, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience because I'm mired in this on a daily basis. I'd love to see our digital spend optimized for Google, right? Because just the unit economics there are so much more advantageous than the unit economics at LinkedIn. But we don't have people that are searching for our category just yet because it's small and it's starting. So we have to spend more on LinkedIn. So the challenge is, you want to get the attention of people who've never heard of you before, who maybe don't know your category, but are experiencing the pain of what your category solves for. You're going to end up spending more on LinkedIn because you can go directly to those people and tell them the direct story right in the place where they're spending most of their time. And then as the category starts to grow, your brand awareness starts to grow and people have an understanding of your value prop based upon the category that you serve, there will be significantly a higher search volume. So it's a weird kind of teeter-totter moment where it's like, I'm spending a ton on LinkedIn and this feels like I'm going to go broke. And then the market hits and then you can go spend way more on Google and reduce your spend on LinkedIn. And you can really build a digital strategy that'll scale.
Here's a good follow-on question. How many ads on LinkedIn have you two clicked on in the last month?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think especially given the fact that you can't do the DM ads anymore. So here's what I'll say. It depends upon how you define click. I love like these ads that have the scrolly stuff and they have all kinds of information. I mean, I'm clicking on it. I'm clicking on it. And the content is compelling. I'm going to learn more. So,
but is that because you're a marketer and great respects great? Or is it because you're really interested?
Yeah, it's because I'm really interested. I think most marketers would tell you if they see good marketing, they sort of they kind of trash it a little bit because they're like, I should have thought of that, or it's only good because they can spend so much money. I'm like by nature a hater, and then if it's bad, you trash it because it's bad. So going after marketers is really challenging. I would say anything that I'm actually engaging with that is an ad, it's because I'm genuinely interested. What I'll say is also I never click on like search ads because if I'm searching for something and I find it, I'm like, I'm going to save this person the 30 cents. I'm just going to go directly to their homepage.
Yeah.
I know they're
Right, what about you?
Well, I mean, none.
Yeah, me too.
And, well, first of all, search ads, I never do only because the experience is so bad.
Right.
Like, cause I know I'm going to a landing page.
Yep.
And if I'm on Google, my intentions are very earnest. Like I want to go, do some research. So I do it.
Yeah.
But I don't click on, I do click on ads. I do like consumer stuff. If I want to buy something, you can get me on those, 75% off, whatever. Or if it's something interesting, like from a consumer perspective, but from a B2B, I don't. That said, I don't forget that much. And that's why I'll just go back to what we talked about before. It's a mix of everything. And the most important thing is, can I triangulate around the key buyers that I care about?
Yeah.
You can, without me clicking, plant a seed in my head for the next time you reach out to invite me to an event with ads across anything. I don't care. You just got to get to me.
Yep.
That will plant a seed in my head, and everything has to work together. But that does work. I do remember I remember this at Gartner, because I'm sure everyone was trying to hit us, but I'd go get a briefing and I would go in with going, oh God, I know those guys. And it's because they push stuff at me at LinkedIn and maybe on, some kind of ad network or whatever. And so, no, I didn't click on it, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that it has.
So the cool part about this, and this goes back to where we're talking a little bit about brand campaigns, to some extent, the fact that you're doing it has that secondary effect that it acts as a brand campaign. You see something enough, you have a higher likelihood of engagement. So,
yeah, totally. I think that was good. Hey, I got to throw this one out because I just got an email from our agency, Ringmaster Casey. He said he didn't hate it. Now, do you think that means that so I didn't hate it as a C plus?
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 6.
Yeah.
I think you're being generous.
I figure 50-50, you hate it or you love it. I'm thinking we're just tipping the scale, maybe like a 5.1.
Also, can we use that as the podcast tagline?
Yeah. I didn't hate
Yeah,
it. It's a good one.
I didn't.
Oh my God. I'm gonna, we're gonna have to put Casey on here and confront him on his feedback. Actually, yeah. So if someone says they don't hate it, it's normally, where would you put it no matter what? You put in you gave it a 6, I gave it a B minus C plus, and Matt, you were saying 3.
A 3, right?
Yeah.
Because I think if you hate something, you're giving it a 0 or 1. Saying that you didn't hate it means that you don't like it.
Oof. Man,
that's rough.
All right, tough audience. Geez.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we'll have to. Okay, Plan B. B.
Hey, podcast over. Bye. No.
The good news is I have a microphone, so it could have just been an audio issue.
There you go.
It was equipment.
Yeah. And Craig wasn't feeling his best. The COVID thing,
He didn't. He wasn't wearing a hat. He wasn't.
I'm not. Dude, I'm gonna go listen to it.
I sent it to you today. You got it. So,
yeah,
but.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're getting close here. So I got a couple of questions. Let's start with where you guys live. This one should be really interesting. Matt and I were talking about this a little bit ago, and there's all those people who are like, I will give up dollars for equity for the big payout. Now, that's a huge San Francisco thing all the time. And I meet all these people who are like, yeah, I can take less as long as I get more equity. And to this date, very few of them have cashed out. For you, more cash in hand, hey, I make 500 to $1 million a year, or way more equity with a likelihood of cash out. Thoughts?
3 years ago, you know what you'd do there, and you'd probably come out ahead. And then a year and a half ago, you could have the best of both worlds. I don't know. I don't like it being such a one or the other thing, but that is how you asked it.
Well, okay, go with your gut here. Talk it the way you want it.
No, but it's apt, right? Because Craig, how many people do we know that are in the Atlanta tech scene where they either give very little or no equity to employees?
Is that true, Judd?
Some instances.
Yeah.
And I've seen it both ways. And I've seen, when I work with a lot of these execs and we're talking about compensation, I'm like, look, you've got levers. One of them is equity. One is comp. You've got other levers too, access. So I always say, look, whatever you want, pull the trigger. They've got to set amount that they're willing to give you. And, you're either going to gamble on, on the company, or you're going to gamble on yourself. That's how I look at it. Like, I like cash in hand. I'll go make my own investments most of the time. Because I can't control a lot of things in a business. You can even be in the C-suite, and a lot of times you can't control certain outcomes.
No, definitely. I think my take is here, like all things, it depends. It's sort of like having an investment strategy. The closer that you get to your retirement, the more like of a sure thing that you want. So like in the earlier days of your career, your best, in my opinion, your best bet is to leverage more equity, but obviously everyone's financial circumstances are their own. And then if you're later in your career and you've been successful and you're still in the game, then the opposite could be true. You could be optimizing for more equity. I think, my perspective on it's always been here in Silicon Valley. It's very expensive to live in every way, shape, or form. You're not just talking about mortgage costs and rents and things like that, but you're talking about the cost of everything, driving around, dinner, if you have children, sending them to school, all that stuff is it's so expensive. And yeah, we make like really outsized salaries here, but you'd be shocked at how not far that money goes. And so the opportunity to capitalize in a big way wrapped around an exit, and you're getting a massive lump sum, those are really the only way to meaningfully change the quality of your life. I can't tell you, and this is going to sound like first world problem, whiny stuff, but like, I can't tell you how many people that I know who, might go from, say, making $200,000 to $300,000 in a salary on an annualized basis. And they're like, yeah, my life doesn't feel very different. And that would sound shocking to people in other parts of the world, but like the financial creep of just existing here is pretty nuts, right? You go from living in a place where you're spending $5,000 a month on rent to maybe a place that has enough space for you to have an office, and now it's $6,500, and like that's material expense increase, right? And so your increased salary is only covering, some bit of that. So I think your best bet is, to have a good financial advisor, to have that person give you sound advice, and to also have some professional mentors who've been down the road, right? Like I've signed up for jobs where I took a lower salary and a higher equity, and then the job didn't work out, right? And so I was like, dang, I would have been a lot better off taking, 15% higher comp, because the reality is I'll never realize any of this value from this company. So
Matt sounds like the guy who's like, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving you I'm not giving you health, but go talk to a financial planner.
Yeah, by the way, if millions of people listen to the podcast, Matt right now would be getting thrashed on social for First World.
I can't wait.
You didn't mean it that way.
I may become the most problematic host on this show.
Might become. So the no, I'm just kidding. I don't think there's an easy answer to that, Judd.
Nope.
Because and so I would agree with Matt. Everyone's situation's different. I'll just tell you how many times that in the non-head, like there's these gold rush moments in tech where it's like everything works. We're not in that right now. I mean, there's companies that'll work, but like you can't just throw your money out there. And it just seems like, in blackjack, every time I double down on our 10 or 11, I get like a 5. It's like I get a 5 every time. And it's like I always feel like in my head, like the gods of gambling are like, you're getting greedy. And so I'm really kind of scared to even give this advice, but I do think like depends where you live too. Like as Matt said, like I'll just back it up. People keep getting raises and they're not better off here. I mean, they're all they're all way off. They're doing great.
Right.
But like that extra amount of money in this really expensive place is kind of tough. So it's hard to imagine.
And everywhere's getting expensive now. I mean,
yeah, it's hard to imagine everyone going all in on their chips only.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that.
There is nothing like showing up to work on that day and being there at 6 a.m. if you're on the West Coast, and your CEO's in the box ringing it in the IPO. I mean, there's truly nothing like it. Similarly, there's nothing like, getting a
Meeting.
deal transacted and being acquired. And, when that check just clears on a random Tuesday and you're like, whoa, that's super great.
There's also nothing like doubling down on your equity, buying it, and it costing you more than you want.
Yeah, I think there's truly nothing like that. That is the pain is worse than the
Oh,
joy.
it's so bad.
Yeah.
And a lot of people probably are like, damn, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a problem that a lot of people understand right now, like one of the things that we don't often talk about when we look at the landscape over the last year with the layoffs is like, there's a lot of people that had probably early exercised some of their stock and like worthless now.
Yep.
I mean, that is truly brutal. So
It is.
I empathize with anybody who's been through that. I've been through it.
Yeah, a lot of us have. So, guys, we are at time, and hopefully, we touch on a couple good topics for you guys. We'd love to hear from you. Like, what topics are hot? What do you want us to discuss, and who do you want us to bring on the show? We've got some amazing guests coming, but let us know. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We're going to talk to you again real soon, and with that, we're out.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to GTM Unfiltered. To hear our innovative insights and strategies, visit gtmunfiltered.com. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time.